I just began the process of putting onto the calendar the Corker bill, which I'll ask Senator Corker to describe in a moment, but I think you're familiar that it would require that the President submit any agreement with the Iranians to Congress. This bill will ripen by next week. It will be on the floor of the Senate for debate next week. We think the timing is important. We think it will help prevent the administration from entering into a bad deal. But if they do, then it will provide an opportunity for Congress to weigh in, as Senator Corker will point out, which has almost always been the case in the past on these kinds of agreements.
With the sanctions regime, there are some UN Security Council sanctions. Those are not a part of this. There are some executive branch sanctions. Those are not a part of this. But what this does do, since Congress ultimately is going to have to permanently raise any sanctions, suspend any sanctions that take place, it allows us to vote on that on the front end. So for 60 days, if there's a deal that's reached, for 60 days it would lay before Congress. We would have the opportunity for hearings and to have classified briefings and to understand what the President has agreed to. And during that period of time, Congress can either approve, disapprove, or take no action at all. It also allows us, if there's a deal that's reached and if it's not disapproved, and as it moves ahead, every 90 days, the President has to certify to us that they are not developing a nuclear weapon, that there is no covert activity occurring, and there's no terrorism being conducted against U.S. or its allies. So during that period of time, we would also have the opportunity to weigh in. I would think anybody who ran for the United States Senate and cares about the big issues facing our nation would want to support this piece of legislation. Everyone in America should want the House and the Senate to weigh in on this most important agreement that may be reached, and I'm glad we're going to have the opportunity to do so.
Will you also be doing a vote on the Iran sanctions legislation from Senator Kirk next week?
Well, the bill will be open for amendment, and what I indicated was, and it could well be voted on as an amendment during the course of this debate on the Corker proposal. Certainly, if no agreement is reached, we'll need to ratchet up the sanctions. Arguments have been made by some of our friends on the other side in the administration that the choice was between this deal and war. That's not the choice. The choice is between this deal and tougher sanctions. And so the Kirk-Menendez approach is the sanctions approach. Could well be considered in the course of the debate on the amendment, on the proposal that I'm putting on the calendar, or it could be brought up later if there is no deal and we need to ratchet up the sanctions further.